You said break your back when you see those?
Break your back.
All right.
The cell membrane, or plasma membrane, is essential to the protection and organization of a cell. It serves as a barrier to keep cellular components separate from the external surroundings and also helps control the entry and exit of substances like water, nutrients, and ions. Both prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells have cell membranes. The cell membrane may fuse with the cell membrane of nearby cells to form channels to transport cytoplasm, organelles, water, wastes, and other substances between adjacent cells. The cell membrane is partly composed of a bilayer of glycerophospholipid molecules. These lipid molecules are long and thin, and each has a hydrophilic or water-loving head and a hydrophobic or water-fearing tail. The two layers of glycerophospholipids are arranged with the tails pointing toward each other. This way, the heads of one layer face inside the cell, while the heads of the other layer face outside. In eukaryotic cells, the cell membrane is a patchwork of proteins and cholesterol molecules. Integral proteins are embedded deep in the cell membrane, and some are transmembrane proteins, passing through the entire membrane. Peripheral proteins are involved in binding adjacent cells together, while other proteins sit on the outer surface of the cell membrane as cell markers. Cholesterol molecules are embedded between the phospholipids in the membrane to prevent the membrane from freezing in cold environments. The cell membrane is not a rigid structure, but rather a dynamic and fluid mosaic of molecules. The cell membrane is selectively permeable, meaning it only allows certain particles to enter or exit the cell. Particles can move across the membrane using three different types of movement: passive diffusion, facilitated diffusion, or active transport. Small particles and gases such as...
So she's going really, really fast. So I want to go back to this right here. To answer the first question, it's all about the lipid. Okay?
Lipid molecules are long and thin, and each has a hydrophilic or water-loving head and a hydrophobic or water-fearing tail. The two layers of glycerophospholipids are arranged with the tails pointing toward each other. This way, the heads of one layer face inside the cell, while the heads of the other layer face outside.
Okay, so the first question. Why do your cells not dissolve when you walk in the rain or slam or take a bath?
Because they face each other.
So they form this barrier, right? So what do they say about the tails on the inside of the membrane?
It doesn't work.
Right, so that keeps the water can't pass through that very easily. And we're going to find out that water is able in small amounts to move across the membrane, but not in large amounts. So it does. So we're going to say that about exactly what you just said, that part of it, the inside part of the cell membrane, doesn't like water, repels the water, keeps the water out.
Is it just called the inside or the top?
Yeah, the tails. Yeah, the inside tail part. Yeah. Or somebody explain, repeat that.
Oh,
How would you answer it?
I said they form a barrier to keep water out.
So bear the water out, the inside repels water. Right. The inside of it repels the water. And repel is an ACT word. That's one of those words that we'll see. Okay. Now the next one was in the diagram, was kind of in the, so number 2, when you started seeing this thing, stuff started, what you notice about the cell membrane?
While the heads of the other layer face outside molecules. Integral proteins are embedded
What's all this stuff going in and out?
Between adjacent cells. The cell membrane is partly composed of a bilayer of glycerol.
All right, so how do your cells regulate what comes in and out of the cell?
By the cells, they come together to make.
All right, so they can pass, right, by connecting to this. The word adjacent just means whoever's next to me. So the cells that are next to each other, right, allow substances to pass through. Yep.
So I'm just going to pick alpha because they're adjacent and it allows them to pass like waste inside.
Right. Good.
Because they're adjacent and allows them to pass cytoplasm.
Bro, I was not trying to come to school today. I just came to get my progress report, honestly.
Several organic molecules. I will concentrate on two of them in this presentation. The first molecule is a lipid. It is called a phospholipid because instead of the usual 3 fatty acid chains, there are only 2. The third bonding position is with a phosphate group. The phospholipid molecule is divided into a head region and a tail region. The head region is the glycerol and phosphate group.
Okay, so this is where we're going to start drawing our cell membrane in your notes. So the last question was, what 2 types of transport were they? And that was the very last thing before I cut it off. So do you remember what they said? What were like the different types? Passive. So passive is one way. Okay, and there's going to be three types of passive.
Isn't it
All right,
active?
and active. Very good. So passive and active is all you need for that, and tuck this away in a safe place. Since this is going to be your first opening on the next check, just kind of put it somewhere where you know you can, when you get your folders back, you can put it in there. All right.
There are adjacent entities.
Okay, you can wait.
Okay, so the cell membrane, so this is still unit 2. All right, so this is just part 2. Part 1 was that first packet and all the structure and function, and now we're going to talk about how does it maintain homeostasis. All right, so how cell membrane maintains homeostasis.
Oh. That was the course we're going.
Homeostasis. All right, so we're just going to put that at the top because that's what the cell transport is. Think about it. If I need to get rid of waste to help me stay healthy, then that's what's going to happen. If I need to uptake nutrients and water because that helps me stay healthy, then that's what the cell membrane is going to help me do to maintain homeostasis. So the cell membrane is what controls all this. So there's a word that means it's picky. Do you remember what they said, that it's something permeable? That the cell membrane is choosy and picky about what it allows to come in and out of the cell. Remember what word that was? Selective. So we're going to put that back down, kind of talk more about what exactly does that mean and how does that work. So we're going to do the structure of the cell membrane, and talk about its parts, and that might be, we'll see how far we can get from there, okay? So I'm going to move this over, and let's find a place in your notes as we're going to draw this diagram and use color and all that other business, okay? Okay, you good? All right, get your notes out so we can knock this out. All right, so 9:28.
We have to watch the game.
No. Boy.
All right,
Boy.
structure and function.
I need some copy paper. I need some.
I'm just using this because my board won't work.
Oh, what's that paper right there then?
This is just in your notes,
Where?
in your notebook.
We're taking notes, guys.
Duh.
Why would you didn't understand?
No, she got a white copy, like.
Just use a notebook, piece of paper.
I'm just
okay,
using
thank
this.
you.
I'm using it. You don't have this because my smart notebook won't work. So I'm having to draw it up here. Probably see if I can get them in here third period. Okay, so the first thing is with the cell membrane, we're going to say that it is selectively, what we know, selectively permeable.
We've been in school for a month now.
Okay, meaning it only allows certain substances to pass through. And that's in or out. All right, small substances can move through easier. And we're going to talk about how they do that, either passively or actively, with energy or not. And we'll get more into that on Monday. So these are, for example, oxygen gas. That's what's happening right now between your bloodstream and your lungs. You take a deep breath, you fill your lungs with air, that oxygen just moves right from your lungs into your bloodstream, and your blood, the red blood cells, then pick it up and take it all over your body. And then it brings the CO2 back and you let it out. So CO2 you can get rid of pretty easily. Now, if somebody has an asthma attack, those airways are constricted, and it's harder for that air to get in, but also the CO2 to get out. So that's why, you know, your cells, your red blood cells are trying to help you get rid of stuff and to carry the oxygen to your tissues. But if the airways are so small, it's hard. Or if you have a pneumonia or some type of upper respiratory infection, it's just hard for that to happen. So water can pass through in small amounts. That's how the water you drink goes from your stomach into your bloodstream, and then it goes to your cells. Small salts. Y'all lose electrolytes, right? You sweat them out.
My power went out last night.
Okay, what's that have to do with this?
Oh, you said electric.
I said electrolytes, salt.
Oh,
and glucose. So glucose, we know, is the sugar that our mitochondria needs from the food we eat to make ATP. So that's a little, all those are considered smaller molecules that can move into and out of the cell. And then small waste products we know too. All right, so that's basically what it does. It does this to maintain homeostasis. So helps cell to stay healthy, which is homeostasis. All right, so now let's draw the structure. So when you draw it,
Ms. Thornhill,
yes, sir.
may I have Malaysian Smith?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, when you draw this, give you enough room up top. So like leave a space so you can draw stuff on top of the diagram. You'll see what I mean. So don't like butt it up right next to this. So kind of come down a little bit. And we're going to go ahead and draw the lipid bilayer. All right, so this is why we'll color yellow. So it looks like a balloon with two strings. Okay, and we'll draw about 3 of those. Now from the video, how many layers of these does your cell membrane have? 2. Well, it has 2 layers, a bilayer. So we're going to label that. So we have to put a set right down this way. Like that. So this is a phospholipid bilayer. All right. So what does bi mean? Bicycle? Coming to 2. So it has 2 layers of phospholipid. Now we know this top part is hydrophilic, and then it has the tail. So here's the head, and those are the tails.
And shoulders, knees, and toes.
Okay. All right, take your blues next. So we've got to stick some protein inside of it. So they said there's different types of proteins. We're going to do, the first type we're going to do is a transport protein. It looks like this. So this is what was, has substances passing through.
Okay, please separate.
What do you mean? Like,
Because I accidentally drew them too close to it.
Yeah, I mean, you can label it on the outside. You can label it on the other side. However, yeah, I mean, we're going to draw some more of these right here, so it's okay. Okay, so think of this as like a lane at the grocery store, at a store, a checkout lane. Okay, so these proteins are like a checkout lane that allows substances to pass through easier. Think about this: if you're shoulder to shoulder, if you're shoulder to shoulder with somebody, it's harder for something to get through between you. But if you have a nice little channel right there, you can pass through it a lot easier. So this is called a transport protein. Now, what does trans mean? Trans. It means move across. So transport, transfer, I'm moving something across. So cross. Transsexual, I'm crossing over to a different gender. So that's all it means. Is
Transgender.
people just say trans, but then we.
It's a tranny.
So yeah, but that's what it means. Okay, so we're going to draw 3 more across the bottom too, with the tails. All right, so what are these that I'm drawing right now? What part of the cell membrane? Phospho what? Lipids, right. So you got the flexible phospholipids. And so what happens is they're movable. It's like this. You're carrying, let's say, I've got these that I cut out and I'll kind of break it because I've used them forever. Is it's like this, I'll fix them before Monday. But so you've got these and they're constantly moving. So like if you're holding balloons and you're walking, how the balloons bounce? Yeah. That's what they do all the time. So you can't see it, but your cell membranes, all the lipids are kind of bouncing among each other. And that's why it's easier for things to squeeze through. And then we have the transport protein that allows things to get through easier, especially when you need it. All right. Now you also have some other proteins they talked about. So this was one that passes all the way through, but sometimes proteins don't. And they're like this. So make this one kind of jagged at the top.
The heart?
Yeah, you can make it kind of look like a heart. And then I'm going to draw a couple of these out. Now, I could have given you a diagram and say, let's label the diagram. What I find is people learn this better when you're drawing it, coloring it yourself. And that's the reason that I'm not giving you a diagram. So this, we're going to do one more protein right here. And it's flat across the top. And that'll be the last protein. And those will be the last lipids. All right. Everybody with me so far? Because once you've got that, we have to take the red or an orange, or like just a red color, bless you. And we're going to draw something right here to match it, bless you. So draw something that fits in like that. And then we'll talk to you about what that actually means. Bless you. Okay, right, good so far? Bless you. Okay, so
What's that red again?
So the red thing that I just drew is a hormone. So this is what happens. Your cells don't have a brain, but they operate on signals. Okay, they operate on signals. So we have proteins like this that are called receptor proteins. And they receive particular hormone signals. What hormone tells your cells to uptake sugar, glucose? That y'all, if you're not a diabetic, you don't have a problem with. Insulin. So this is like insulin. So here's the deal. If I'm a diabetic, I don't have those receptors. That's a problem. Because if I don't have these receptors on my cell membranes of my cells, then that means when I eat sugar, it stays in my bloodstream. My cells cannot get that sugar. And if I don't get sugar, I don't have ATP, which means my cells are not going to have any energy to do the work they need to do. So insulin says, locks on there and says, okay, take up the sugar. If that insulin doesn't lock in like this, that sugar stays outside in the blood, and those cells don't get their food. So this is the inside of the cell. Okay, this is the outside. Now that's kind of a wild concept. So there's a little video clip that I found that shows it, and we'll look at that on Monday. One last thing, just so we don't have to get colors on Monday as far as this many, is let's draw a carb ID tag, and it doesn't matter what color, if it's a pen or a pencil. Make some rings and kind of make it look like a Y. Yeah. This way? Okay. All right, what this is this is a cool thing that all of us have on all of our cells. That carb ID tag says this is your cells and nobody else's. So if you get an organ or you donate an organ to somebody that's not your identical twin.
Do you get money for donating?
Hold on. If you get somebody else's organ or they get your organ, it's got somebody else's ID tags. So what's your body going to tell it? What's your body going to try to do to that organ?
Really?
Reject it. It's going to say reject, reject. It does not belong in your. These are not your cells, because all of our ID tags look different and they're on every single one of our cells.
Can they do that for a heart? Like, when
yeah,
you put in a new heart and then like they're trying to see if it's like.
So you get a close match. When they say get a match, the ID tags are really close. So you're not going to go on full-blown rejection, but every day of your life, you have to take an anti-rejection drug. So that means that it's kind of like, okay, ignore that there's an ID tag there, and it makes your body ignore them and not reject the organ. But if you don't take that medicine, your body is going to say, oh no, that's not going to work, and you'll reject that organ. So these are your unique. So we're going to say it's unique to each person, just like your DNA.
Wait, so like organ transplants?
Yes. So when they say, hey, you're a close match to whoever, and you can donate your kidney or,
just like how Selena Gomez and that one girl.
Yes.